Lou Murdica, man, I appreciate you doing this for us.
No problem.
I've been dying to interview you. Uh, I don't even know where to start, Lou. Tell us who you are. I mean, I know who you are, but tell people who you are.
Uh, Lou Murdica. Been shooting Benchrest since 1982. Been shooting F-Class for about 10 years. Shot Benchrest score, Benchrest long range. I do Benchrest and laying on the ground F-Class rimfire.
Okay.
And I shoot a little bit of ELR.
Wow. You do everything.
I do everything that doesn't require running.
Ah, I see.
No running, no climbing, no ladders, just shooting.
All right. So, pretty much all the sports you just mentioned are pretty much precision sports, right? So it
Yes,
seems like you appreciate precision.
I do.
Only accurate rifles are interesting, right?
Yep, I do.
So let's start with Benchrest. I don't know if you saw my interview with Jack Neary, who is I'm sure someone you know.
Yes,
It blows a lot of minds just because the way you guys do things. I mean, you guys are. I mean, if you wear out a barrel in 500 rounds, but you get zeros all the time, you're gonna wear out the barrel. You don't care. You're chasing that zero group at all costs, pretty much. Am I correct?
at this stage of the game now compared to the 80s, our products out there, if you get the right ones, are just unbelievable.
Uh huh.
And you can get 1,000 rounds, no problem.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, you guys prioritize group size over anything else, right?
I prioritize group size over everything and every shooting I do.
Right. Well, I'm just saying. I mean, well, F class is score shooting, so it's totally different. Is it? Or I've never shot Benchrest, and this is why I wanted to interview you, because you shoot Benchrest, and that's pretty much been your primary sport, correct?
Yes, yes.
And you've been shooting F class, so I'm trying to figure out how they relate, how does one apply to the other, or does it?
It's actually really close. It just, believe it or not, the only two differences. Number one, you're laying on the ground, uh, when it comes to the guns, the ammo, the case prep, the scopes, the barrels, bullets, it's all the same. It's got to be right.
Right.
Because in F class, just picture it's like Benchrest. Your first shot is the X. You're chasing the X.
Right.
Well, in Benchrest, your first shot, no matter where it hits on the paper, you're chasing it. So there's really no difference in holding off. Yeah, you hold off a little further because your bullets travel further.
Right.
It's like rimfire 50 yards and Benchrest 100. I mean, when you shoot the 6 PPC, you might hold off an eighth of an inch. With a rimfire, you hold off an inch. Same
Right.
wind. So it's all the same principles. It's all gun handling. Everything you do is pertains to the same. If you use cleaning the gun, loading your bullets, sorting your whatever you sort, your ammo, your cases, as long as you just do it and produce good groups, you're going to shoot good at F class, long range. I set more world records. I tested everything at 100 yards. And I know all these guys like Brian, no, that don't matter. 100 yards doesn't mean nothing. If it don't shoot at 100, it ain't gonna shoot. Okay.
I'm gonna start a slow clap.
I have set world records at 600 yards, 1,000 yards in Benchrest, all being tuned in the tunnel at 100 yards.
Well,
Okay,
you know who's famous for.
friends. Go ahead.
I say, I'm fairly known for tuning at 100 yards. Even though I have a
Yeah,
1,000 yard range, I do 100
yeah.
yards, and I say exactly what you just said. If it doesn't shoot at 100, it's not. I don't have any of those magic bullets that all of a sudden come back together. Once they deviate, they're gone.
That's
So
it.
anyway,
That's it. And like you said, bullets are. I mean, there's so many products that are so important in this game, in all the games. It's just not just Benchrest. It's all the games. That's why you see everybody improving. Guys are just starting to shoot really good because they're starting to do a little more, not just going out and just loading the ammo with the same load and all that. They're learning. Whereas we've been doing this in Benchrest for years. So it applies over. Our scopes are getting better. We don't have as much movement in them as we used to. They used to be horrible. But as the products improve, everything else improves.
well, and I think the other reason that new shooters improve so fast is because we've already weeded out all the stuff that doesn't work, right?
That's right.
All they have to do is copy what you're doing or what I'm doing, or they just look at, okay, who won the nationals? What were they using? And all they have to do is copy that, and they're going to be so far ahead of the game.
I mean, get close. There's, you got where if you go out to the range and you start to do load workup, I always tell everybody, start with 2 shots. If the 2 bullets don't go together after 2, they ain't gonna go together. They ain't gonna get any better.
Nope.
You might as well move on. There's something you gotta change. Seating depth, powder charge. Those are the most common things that you change: the seating depth and powder charge.
Right. Okay, so let's talk about Benchrest for a little bit, and then we'll transition into. So Benchrest, you have the most beautiful group I have ever seen in Benchrest, where not only is it a tiny group, you put it right in the center,
Right in the middle.
right in the middle. So that's double rewarding, right? But
Yeah, it was. It was. A lot of people look at it. I got to hang on the wall. A lot of people look at it and goes, "Oh, that's 1 shot." I go, "No, that's 5 shots."
yeah,
And I've got another one real similar. I shot one in NBRSA organization, and I shot another one just like it in IBS organization. So I've got 2 that are really nice, and I mean, it's just that. Like I said, you chase your first shot. So if the wind puts it in the middle, that's where you're going.
So Benchrest, I mean, you guys clean like crazy. Is that something that you do as well?
I clean usually every 2 to 3 groups. I clean always the 3rd group after the 3rd group or before. Usually I start clean, shoot the first 2 groups, sometimes the 3rd if I'm not shooting a lot of rounds, and then I won't clean till after the last next 2. And then at the end, then I really clean after that.
So about every 20 to 25 shots, roughly?
Yeah, 25, 30 shots. Okay. Now, I got an old friend that he's no longer with us that shot Benchrest forever. And him and his brother used to shoot zeros after zeros. They were called Gil and Wally Hudson. And Gil always said, because his brother was handicapped, he always never cleaned until after 2 groups. He said they shot more groups on the 2nd group than ever.
Screamers?
Always on the 2nd one, never on the 1st one.
Okay, so the screamers would come on the 2nd one. Okay.
That's for him.
Okay,
yep.
Okay. Now, do you use abrasives like IOSO, JB board paste?
I use abrasive. I use a lot of IOSO. I use, I don't know, it's kind of frightening. Have you ever seen me use a drill?
Yeah, yeah.
I use a drill always.
Yeah.
I use a blue.
I also brush. Yeah, the
I
I
use
also brush.
these things, eliminator brushes.
Yeah.
They hold up the best with the drill.
Mm-hmm.
And I clean and shoot so many guns all day long, different calibers, that my arm would fall off. It literally would. So I use a drill motor, and I used to use a bronze brush.
Right.
I never had a problem, but I had a barrel I took a brand new barrel, shot it, used a bronze brush with a drill, and sent it to have it checked out. And they said everything looked fine, except you could see where the brush would hit the lands, and on one side, and it would scrape the brush. Part of it would be left in there. And I just did it and left it so they could check it. So I went to a plastic brush now, and I get none of that. And I have no problem. But yes, I clean that. And like on my 6 PPC or 308, I have another drill set up on a rod, and I clean my neck of my chamber, which you build up a carbon in there, and that will change pressure as your case grows. I pressure test, and you can prove that when your case gets out there, I trim a lot, but I did it so, say I wasn't a trimmer, I was just an everyday shooter. And I use that drill, and I go in there with a 30 caliber, and I just go right in to the neck, and I clean that carbon right at the end of the neck. I get rid of that carbon buildup. That's important.
Yeah. I tell people, when I teach classes, or even on my private forum where I teach people reloading, I tell them, do everything the same every time. And that includes trimming. I trim my breast every time because I have tested that. And
it's your first crown.
I found out that my groups would change if I didn't trim.
Yes.
At 1,000 yards.
Because it's your first crown. And that's where the pressure, when it's building up in a case, it changes as soon as the bullet comes out of the gun. If the case is 2 thousandths, 5 thousandths longer, it's different. You get a different pressure. So you're trying to get everything the same, and that's one of the tricks. Your crown and your other crown. Those are important.
Right, because when we chamber barrels, do you do your own barrel work?
I do when I need to. I have a full shop, 2 lathes, mills, everything. But I've got a friend, which is Mike Stasenko. He's all CNC, and a lot of times I'll go there with 4 barrels and just whip them out in 4 or 5 hours compared to me.
Yeah,
4 barrels would take me a week and a half.
Yeah, because what I was going to say,
I am not a machinist, so I go really slow.
Well, what I was going to say is, you know how it is when you chamber a barrel, you focus on it being concentric at the freeboard area, right? The throat.
Oh, yeah.
You don't care about anything else. So and then the other area, at least the way I chamber, and I learned from Speedy, so
there you go.
I check the crown as well. So I get those 2 running concentric, which is your 2 crowns like you're talking about. And as long as those are happy, as Speedy would say, as long as they're happy, everything else is happy. So
that's right.
I never had thought about it as a second crown, but that makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, obviously on F-Class, you can't clean every 20 rounds. You don't clean between stages, do you?
No, but I did at first. And guys would laugh.
That's crazy when even the F-Class guys are laughing at you for cleaning too much.
But I did some work, and I figured the most you're shooting in a day before I clean is 100 rounds max,
Right.
and then I'm cleaning.
Right.
So yes, I clean at the end of the day.
Yeah.
If it's an older barrel and I get a break to where I can clean, I'll go down to the car and I'll clean.
Yeah, I'm the same way. And that's why I don't pull off barrels because they don't shoot. I pull them off because they get too dirty. You know what I mean? And then,
Yes.
and now you're running the liability of what if I don't have time to clean, right?
Yeah.
And that's most of the time why I will pull off a barrel. I mean, I pulled off barrels that shoot great, but they just won't make it through a whole day
Right.
without me starting to worry about it. So I
And
completely
in
understand.
Benchrest, see, you get 30 minutes in between each time, and that's plenty of time to clean.
Yeah, but you know what F-Class is like. You're done shooting, you get on the shuttle, you got to go to the pits, and then you come out,
Yep.
you got to score. There's really no time. But
No, there isn't.
Like I said, most of the time, I if a barrel's getting old where it starts to build up, I just pull it off because there's no time. So, do you make bullets? I saw you were you making bullets the other day? I follow you. I know what you do.
Yeah, I was. I've been making some today.
But you're
I'm
making
going to Visalia.
You making them only for your PPC, or do you make them for your F-Class rifle as well?
PPC only.
Yeah.
And I only make them when I need them, only for myself or the grandkids.
Uh-huh.
But most of the grandkids shoot burger columns. I've got 4 grandkids that shoot competition, and they shoot F-Class too.
Uh-huh.
And but I'm running low right now. The past year and a half, I've been shooting Pine Heart bullets, which are just unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
You could see all the winning I've been doing with them. And he's making me more, but I want to make sure I have enough for the season. So
Yeah.
I'm going to shoot mine in Visalia, which I'm comfortable with because they're proven in the tunnel.
Right.
It's just that I've always said if I could buy a product that will do perfect, I'll take it. I don't
Right.
need to do it.
Right. So the tunnel. I mean,
Yes.
I mean, you are as set up as probably better than some bullet manufacturers or ammunition manufacturers. I mean, you have your own tunnel. You have pressure testing
Yes.
capabilities. You have rail guns. I remember I asked you the other day if you had a rail gun. You're like, yeah, I got 8 of them.
Yeah.
I laughed. But
I could spin this around and show you a lot of this.
well, we'll get to that here shortly. But a lot of people don't really understand. See, most of what I've learned, obviously I've learned from a lot of people, okay? But you know how it is. Everybody has an opinion. There's a lot of
Yes,
facts,
they do.
but there's facts, but they're wrapped around an opinion, right? It's
And it's okay. But
exactly. However, one thing that I did early on is I had access to a 1,000-yard range, and pretty much everything somebody would tell me, I would go test it. I wouldn't just start doing it. I would go and test it, and I would go and
That's
test
right.
it, and test and test, and that's how I got to where I'm at. But and I was able to weed out a lot of stuff that didn't matter, and then I had to. Sometimes I'd be driving around and start thinking about like the trimming thing that nobody told me about trimming, that it would make a difference. One day I was driving around and I go, because I used to go, well, I'm not going to trim because I hated trimming. And I said, I'm not going to trim because if I need to trim, I'm just going to throw the brass away. That was my initial thing. But I noticed that I would do everything the same. The only thing I wasn't doing was trimming. And as my brass had more firings on it, the groups kept getting less and less consistent, and my speeds would change, and it just drive me crazy. And then I thought one day, well, let me trim the brass because I'm just, that's the only thing I'm not doing, so it's easy to test. And I borrowed a trimmer, a Giraud trimmer from a friend. It was a real easy test. I loaded 10 rounds of my normal stuff and I trimmed 10 more. I went to 1,000 yards. I didn't have an electronic target at the time. I had a friend mark the shots. So I shot 10. I cleared the gun. He came out, marked the shots, shot another 10, and he called me on the phone and he said, I don't know what you did to the second group, but it's like half the size of the first one. And the only thing I had done is trim. And I thought, okay, I trim every time now. You know, those minor little things that seem minor, but they're so major when you're shooting 1,000 yards.
They really are, because if it shows up at 100, it's going to show up at 1,000.
Oh yeah, drastically. So you do all your stuff. What I'm gonna give people a little more background about you, but because you did all the testing for the burger book, is that correct?
Yes, I've done. Well, I used to do all their testing completely till they moved to Mesa, and now that they have their own tunnel there, they're starting to do their own testing, and I test less. Every once in a while, I'll get bullets from them. They'll say, "Please give us your opinion."
Okay.
You know, and I'll do the test, but that for long range, you got to remember, Burger Bullets was a Benchrest bullet. Okay. And David Hamilton is the guy that runs all the manufacturing at Burger Bullets. He's in charge of it. He's down on the floor. That's Walt's grandson.
Okay.
And he shot Benchrest forever. So he knew and used to make the bullets for Walt when Walt was making them by hand. So he knew what it takes. And I mean, I know people have different opinions of different bullets, but I'm telling you, they're all just trying to be like Burger. Burger has such quality control and wants everything so perfect. And if they don't shoot, they don't sell them. I mean, it's just the way it's done. They just throw them in the trash and change something.
Yeah,
because one little change in your die pressure, whatever, changes the bullet.
Oh yeah, I mean, I've ruined bullets by pointing them, by trying to make them better, and I've ruined them. But
that's right. Pointing. Again, a lot of guys point, and you can point. I won't say you can't. You got to be so careful because you're taking the strongest part of the bullet and trying to change it, and the weakest part is right there at the lead line. And we did a lot of testing with Burger on pointing, and they couldn't believe how much it was bending right there at the lead line.
Yeah, I couldn't get someone to shoot one time, and it was driving me crazy. I couldn't, and again, I'm in construction, and I do a lot of driving. Yeah, I know. I do a lot of driving, and you know how it is. I'm driving, and when something's bothering you, especially about shooting, you just can't stop thinking about it. And I'm going, what the heck? Nothing has changed. What? And then I'm start going through my process, and I go, the only thing I did is I moved my pointing die from one press to the other, and I readjusted it. I said, I'll bet you I did something there. So sure enough, I went to go test, and sure enough, I was pointing about 10 thousandths too much. It doesn't take much. I mean, and
it don't take much.
And I started testing. There's another thing people don't do that they need to do, is when I point different levels, and I go test, you know. And then to really, everything and every lot of bullets is the same. Once you understand what I'm saying, you're going to understand why we buy big lots, big quantities. Because
that's right.
Once you figure out what that lot needs, it takes work. It takes work to shoot well at long range. I mean, I've never done short range, but I'm talking about long range. You don't just go and point bullets. You have to figure out the level of pointing that you can do without damaging the bullet. So anyway, I've done it to where I've ruined bullets, and then what? What do you do with them then? It's nothing.
Yeah, nothing. You fire for them, whatever.
Exactly.
I mean, I have two pointing systems that we bought for the test and did all the things, and I don't do nothing with them. I won't sell them because I think they're bad, so I just don't sell them.
Right.
I don't want to give somebody something and have them do something wrong. So I'm just that way. They can just sit on the shelf.
So, what do you think about barrel twists? I mean, do you prefer to barely stabilize? For example, let's talk about F-Class, because we shoot 180s, 184s, or whatever, and I've always shot 1 and 9 twist barrels. And some people say they're marginal, but for me, they've always worked well. Some people like to spin them a little faster, 8.5 twist, and some people have even.
I shoot most all the twists, 8, 8.5, 9.
But what is there one better than the other that you found, or it's at a point where it's just happy. It's a wide range where they're happy.
I would prefer not to go extreme, but I prefer to over twist than to under twist.
Okay.
When shooting, especially long range. Okay. It's like I explain it to people. It's like a top. Take a top, you spin it, and it goes out, and it's walking, then it goes dead asleep. Then it starts walking again, and then it wobbles real bad. Well, if it underspins that far out there, I don't want that wobble. I can handle that little bit of spin, not being dead asleep, but I don't want that wobble. So I'd rather overspin than underspin.
Okay. So is that why you shoot like 8 twist, 8.5? But you also shoot some 9s, right?
I shoot 9s too, because I shoot a lot of times. You got to remember, I shoot a lot of things that Berger would ask me to shoot.
Oh, I see.
So they would ask me, shoot 9 twists, shoot 10 twists, shoot this. So I'd order up from either Schillen or Bartlett and say, I need this. So they'd send me, and I'd test them. And I'd see, and because Berger, when I do all the testing, they would, a lot of times I never knew what I was testing. They'd send me boxes A, B, and C. And they just would say, shoot it, let us know. I'd get back with them. I'd say A. They'd say, okay. I'd get 3 more boxes, A, B, or C. I'd say C. Well, they wanted to see it duplicate. They wanted to repeat. They didn't want it to be a fluke. So if I could keep repeating, then they knew it did something.
Yeah, I've done testing for them too before. Not as much as you, but they hey, can you test some stuff for? Sure, send it over, and they comes in little baggies, like it said A, B, whatever, and then I'd shoot them and give them my results, and I'd be like, well, what's the difference? They're like, we can't tell you.
They can't tell me.
just tell us what shot best, or if there was a difference, or I'm like, okay. But yeah, it's interesting. But I think that's the way to do it, right? They don't want
it is. And I do that a lot with I test for a lot of other people too. A lot of Benchrest shooters that make bullets and stuff, and they'll send me little boxes and they'll say, Lou, tell me what you think. And I'll tell them, this one shot, the other ones didn't. Stuff like that. I don't tell the public. I never tell the public who I test for or whatever anymore, unless the person says, hey, tell everybody if you feel my product's good. If it ain't, I ain't going to say it. But if it's good, I feel people should know.
Yeah, and if it's super good, then you're just going to use it yourself and go set a few records and then tell everybody else. So, okay, so F-Class. Let's talk about long range. How is and I understand what you're saying, as you're shooting score regardless. You're just trying to stack shots on top of each other regardless of what sport you're shooting.
That center of that target. That's where my first shot is.
Right, and I get that. However, how is the strategy different? Because in Benchrest, you're just shooting. I mean, you can shoot as fast as you can and get it over with, right? 5 shots. Whereas
you can, but now short range Benchrest, but you got to remember the wind's always moving. It don't always work like that.
Right.
There's gun handling involved. Everything is involved. And if it ain't right, you're not going to shoot a good group. Simple as that. And the same with F-Class. You're down there. You want to keep your gun handling the same recoiling, whatever you're doing. If you're holding, free recoiling, any of that stuff, you want to keep trying to do exactly the same. What I found the difference between, it's hard for me when I shoot Benchrest and then I go one weekend, then next weekend I shoot F-Class. Well, F-Class, you're looking at a target 1,000 yards away, and you think you're moving the crosshair. Oh, I'm going to go to the next line. Well, you forget in Benchrest, that's just a tiny bit. In F-Class, you just moved it 4 inches or whatever. You're going, wow. You forget there's that much in between the lines and stuff. So it's hard to critically hold. So you're watching wind flags or mirage. F-Class, you're pretty much watching mirage because the flags, yeah, you glance at them, but then look at the mirage because there's not a lot of flags out there to see. So you're not, and it's too far to compared to short range. It's right there in front of you. You're seeing them. You can see a difference, but if you see it, it's already changed. So same there. So you're watching the mirage in F-Class, and it's that's where your gun handling involved. Because if you're holding a gun and then shooting free recoil, they ain't going in the same spot. Simple as that.
Right. So, what is your strategy when you shoot F-Class? I know, at least for me, I try to have many, right? And apply the one that works the best. And sometimes I start with one strategy and 3 or 4 shots in, I'm like, well, that ain't the one. I better change it. But
that's right.
What is your preferred strategy? Are you a pecker or are you a runner?
I'm pretty much a runner. I'm following my last shot, watching the mirage.
See, so let me touch on that because there's a misconception. There's following the last shot for the new shooter versus the seasoned shooter means different things. The new shooter is simply what we call chases the spotter, right?
That's right.
If it hit downwind 9, they aim upwind 9 and they just chase. Whereas you or I will use the previous shot as feedback, but we don't use it as we don't immediately mirror whatever it did, right? We use it as feedback, and most of the time, by the time that shot impacts, you already have a pretty good idea where it's going to go. Sometimes, have you ever done this where you pull the trigger, you're like, that's going to be a 9.
Oh yeah.
That's going to be a 9, and sure enough, it lands a 9.
Yeah.
But like I say, you use the previous shot as pretty much a feedback to continue. You don't use it as an aiming aid. It's just to kind of keep you in the loop. It keeps
me going whether I know. It tells me, one of the things it's telling me is the wind picking up or is it letting down. So if I shoot and I'm holding to the left and it's hitting and now it's starting to move, well, is it letting up or is it picking, or the wind picking up? Because that last shot, you're going to have to go a little more than what that spotter said.
Right.
It needs a little more or a little less based on if it's letting up or picking up. So you got to watch the mirage in combination.
Yeah, people don't realize how much there is to do when you shoot. There's a lot to do.
Well, your bullet's 30 feet above your head, so there's a lot of things it can do.
Yeah, I mean, you have to, at least for me, anyway, it's when it's a very windy windy doesn't matter, or it doesn't bother me. What bothers me is switchy. When it's real switchy, I get off the line really tired, because you've been tense for 30 minutes down there. Because every shot is you've been in those strings where every shot is a guess. It's an educated guess, but every shot you're going, oh man, and then you shoot or you're about to shoot, and then you see something change and you hold off, and then you're like, okay, I'm gonna wait, and then it comes back and you're like, okay, here I go, and then it changes the other way, and it's just I'm getting stressed out just talking about it.
Yeah, switchy is. I hate switchy. I don't mind wind. I've always said wind is my friend.
Yeah.
But switchy, no, I don't like it.
Yeah, it's just very stressful when it's real. When it's switchy.
Yes, it is.
It's even worse when it's calm. I don't want to say
Dead
calm. I
calm?
want to say no. What I'm talking about it. Well, because it's never dead calm. That's why I don't like dead calm. It's hardly ever, but there's always when you think, oh, there's nothing out there, then you get a leaker 9 here, or a leaker liner. It's just enough to just. There's not enough there for you to see it, but there's enough there to push you out.
Living in a desert, I've learned that those calm conditions, you get heat coils that come up.
Thermos.
They're thermos. And that's what's all of a sudden you got a bullet that goes up straight up.
Yeah.
Or you got one that drops. It's the thermals that you can't see because there's no wind. You don't have them when the wind's blowing.
And the other thing is when it's dead calm,
yeah,
it makes you oftentimes think that your gun is not shooting because you get
that's
vertical.
right.
You're like, my gun was bouncing all over the place.
Yeah. And don't change your tuner.
Right. And then you just and then once the wind picks up, like all of a sudden the gun just flattens out. It's crazy how, but again, a newer shooter would totally fall apart in that situation if they don't know what they're looking at, because it makes you, it really tricks you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it is. Switchy and dead calm are, like I said, I like the wind.
So you mentioned tuners. I know you bought a lot of tuners from me.
Yep.
Where are you in the whole tuner thing? As far as how does it help you? How do you utilize a tuner, I guess is the question.
Okay. The way I do it is I tune usually first with no tuner. I tune the gun.
Mm-hmm.
Then I tune the tuner to match my load. And turning it a little bit really shows.
Yeah. So
once I get it locked up, I leave it.
Yeah.
For that load.
I'm the same way. I actually leave it on just because I don't want, because once you put it on, it changes your point of impact. So I just leave it on at all times. I just put it on 0, and I just pretend like I don't have a tuner. I go do my powder test, I do my seating depth test, and then I adjust the tuner to really bring in that load.
Yeah. But the biggest mistake is guys think, oh, my gun's not shooting, and I see them, they change their tuner. If you change your tuner and it's out there, or it's your load, not the tuner, you never can get back to it.
No,
so you're screwed the whole weekend.
It's hard to get it back.
Leave it alone.
I mean, oftentimes it can save you, but it's just one of those isolated things that
it's rare.
Yeah, but yeah, that's what I tell people. Once you set the tuner, just forget that you have a tuner. Leave it alone.
That's right.
And you're done.
I agree.
But all right, what about? And let's talk about. This is F-Class. I did a video where I catch a lot of heck for my videos, Lou, because I put
that means
out.
You're getting their attention.
Well, the stuff that I put out. I put out stuff that's not mainstream, right? Like that whole don't chase the lands. Because what I see a lot of people doing is they go shoot a match, they shoot for the day, they measure they measure with their Hornady comparator or whatever, and if they get a different dimension, boom, now they seat their ammo all different that night, and then the next day they come back, they measure again, and they see a different thing, and all of a sudden they're like, oh man, my gun lost tune. I'm like, no, you took it out of tune by changing your seating depth. I said, if it's shooting, why are you moving it? So how do you handle seating depth? How how do you keep up with it? What do you do? Like, well, how?
Once I establish my seating depth, it stays. I do not mess with it. If it's shooting good, once I get the gun shooting right at a certain seating depth, and usually most all shooting I do, and it's not everybody, I do with some kind of mark on my bullet. Okay, so with that much, some kind of a mark on it, unless it's a brand spanking new barrel, you're not going to lose your mark within the next 2 matches. You just don't. It doesn't wear out that bad, at least not for me.
When you say a mark on the barrel, you mean you put the bullet in the lance enough to
I
leave
put
a
the
mark?
bullet in. It's making either a square mark or less.
Mm-hmm.
I always just call it a square mark or less. I'm not putting enough mark where it's pushing the bullet back.
Right.
Just where it's marking it.
You're in the lance. You're not jamming.
That's right. And the reason why I do this is doing all the pressure testing and everything. I learned that when you're in the lands and you're jumping 10,000s, the difference is 4,000 psi. Same load, same everything. You're talking 4,000 psi. And the pressure maintains the best marking the bullet. It would stay more consistent.
Okay.
Whereas jumping, it can vary because you're getting it's a spike when you pressure test and you're jumping a bullet. The powder explodes and it starts to go out and it hits the lands, then it does another spike and then goes. So it's like a double buildup.
Right.
Whereas when you're into the lands, it's like a gradual buildup and goes. And that's what I prefer.
Right. I don't know if you've seen, but I work off of jam, and the only reason I find jam is I want to find a place where it's going to give me problems. You there?
Just a second. Somebody tried to call me. Okay.
I try to find a place where it's going to stick a bullet in the lance. That's the only thing I need to stay away from. Other than that,
that's right.
I come off 20, and I'm still in the lance at that point. And then I start testing from there, and wherever it shoots, I just leave it. I don't even care where it's at. You know, I always say, when in doubt, believe the target, right? And
that's it.
But so okay, so you don't mess with seating depth. Is that for the life of the barrel, or?
Well, until I go to until like the whole match. No, then every time before I go to a match, I'll test my load again.
Right. Yeah, that's what I do. It's like, don't just go change stuff. Come back from a match and go shoot. What I do is I shoot my established seating depth, and then I add 3,000s, then I add 6,000s and 9,000s, and then I see. And it's gonna show up whether I need to move or not. If I need to move, I move. If I don't, I don't, and that's the end of that, right?
Exactly.
What increments do you test your seating depths?
3,000.
3,000. Okay, that's pretty. I don't even know where I learned that many years ago, but because when I started shooting F-Class, the kind of the typical thing was 10,000s, and and then I started doing 3,000s. I think what happened, I like to have round numbers, right? And I think I'm just gonna make up a number like 2.337. Okay. And I thought, and I was shooting at 2.337, and I said, you know what, I'm gonna go to 2.340 just so I have a round number. I figured 3,000 ain't gonna make a difference. And when I shot that, it was all of a sudden just like magnificent. And I thought, holy crap, 3,000 has made that big of a difference. And from there on, I just started testing in 3,000s. And for a long time, people would ask me, what increments? And I said 3,000s. And they'd say, no, that's too, you're crazy. That's too fine. But it's amazing how it's very sensitive seating depth, right?
3,000 makes a difference in pressure testing.
Now, how wide do you usually find the seating depth notes are, and long range stuff.
I don't. What do you mean by that?
Well, once you start tuning or moving your bullet 3,000s at a time, you'll get to a point where it shoots really good. And then you move it another 3,000s and it stays pretty good. And then you move it another 3,000s. At that point, it may blow up or it may just stay. How wide is that happy place? Is it?
So here's the way I tune.
Okay.
I tune with powder into the lands, powder first.
Right. Uh-huh.
Get the best I can with the powder.
Mm-hmm.
Then I use seating depth to close the group.
Right.
So seating depth will either close it or open it.
Well, I tell people that powder charge controls your ES and SD, and your seating depth controls your group size and shape.
Yeah, that's pretty much
simple. Yeah.
Yeah.
But when you say seating depth, how wide do you find those notes are? Because in powder, sometimes you can go up and down 2 to 3 tenths and nothing happens.
That's right. And believe it or not, that varies between powders and it varies between bullets. Some bullets are very forgiving. Some bullets are not.
Well, it changes between barrels too, I've noticed.
Yeah, well, I'm pretty much either on 2 different types of barrels only. So I'm pretty used to.
But how wide do you find that they typically are, the seating depth nodes?
You're going to run, I'd say the most from one end to the other for me is like 12,000s, 15,000s max.
Yeah, I've found some, and this is again me doing my own testing, about 9,000s, but most are like where I'm really like super, you know what I'm talking about, like a championship winning load. It's typically about 6,000s, where it's like hammer, and then it's like hammer. Okay, that's still pretty good. I could deal with that, and all of a sudden, like, ow, like horrendous.
Don't we love that?
Oh man. Now, what about? So I mean, you're in the lands. What about? Have you ever tested big jumps? Some of the PRS guys, they really like the huge jumps. And like I said, I know you have your whole testing tunnel and your pressure. What do you think about those huge jumps?
I've done the 30,000s off, and I can create the exact same thing with a powder charge. Instead of going off, I can lower my powder and do the same.
Okay. So have you tested farther than 30?
Not really.
Yeah, we don't ever. I mean, I'm talking, these guys are talking like 80,000s off, 100,000.
Oh, no, I've never. No, my butt, your bullet be, the way my throats are, your bullets be past your neck.
Yeah.
And I won't allow that. I won't shoot a chamber.
That's the thing, right? You're just minimizing the powder capacity, and now you got the bullet in the shoulder, neck junction, and just all those things that we know we don't want to do.
Yes. No.
But anyway, so what? Again, I keep track of you. So now you're Brian Blake's playing with a 30. You're gonna start shooting 30 Magnum.
Yeah, it's a 30. It's a 30
BBM. What does he call it?
Yeah, it's the shoulders changed a little on it, and it's a little straighter. Than a 300 WSM. It's good. We have RCC making some brass for it, so you don't have to fire for them like this. Mm-hmm. But it's accurate. I had Brian do me 2 barrels. It's his cartridge, and I gotta admit, his barrels shoot. They shoot. I'm looking forward. I'm going to shoot them at the Southwest Nationals.
Dude, have you been shooting 30 Magnums long, or were you?
Yeah, my favorite's the 30 WSM.
The Wisdom? Yeah, I shot the Wisdom for a while. They are surprisingly easy to tune. Just
They are. Like
so
we
easy.
said, certain things are forgiving. That 300 WSM with a 215 grain Berger bullet. I mean, well, I didn't know my butt from anything, and I went to Michigan and took third in the Nationals there. Third or fourth, I can't even remember. But I mean, against all those guys, and that was like, I think that was my first Nationals, 300 WSM. I mean, it just hammered.
Yeah, it's a good one. I mean, I shot it for a while, and it's I used to tell people it was as easy as a 6BR for tuning purposes. It was just stupid simple.
Yeah.
And I used to shoot the 215s Bergers out of it.
Yeah, that's it. That bullet's just amazing.
So, all right. So you've been shooting F-Class for a while. I don't know if you know this story, but it happened 2-3 years ago. No, it had to be more than that. But I come up there. I think it was in Raton, and I come up there and I look at the results page, right? And I think that's the year the Norm Herald won. So it was Norm, and I think it was Kevin Hill, and then it was me. And I'm like, okay, third place, pretty good, I guess. And then they're like, no, you got fourth. And I say, I got third. Look at it right there. They're like, no, yeah. Lou Murdica got fourth. And you're way that. I said, what the heck is he doing down there with the Masters? The sandbagging son of a gun. I think he got me by like an extra.
That was my first Nationals Raton.
Yeah. And I was like, what's that sandbagging son of a gun doing down there? Like, it was. I laughed because I thought I had third, but no, and they're like, no, you got fourth. I think I found out at the award ceremony when I'm getting ready to go get my third place medal, and then they call Lou Murdica. I'm like, what the heck's going on? But yeah, it's good stuff.
I'm sorry.
Oh no, it's I just found it funny, but because you were down there with I don't know, Masters or Expert. I mean, you were way down there. I just
started.
Yeah, it was funny.
Well, the problem is a lot of guys see I shoot so much Benchrest that the only F-Class I was ever shooting was the Southwest Nationals.
Mm-hmm.
So I was shooting a major match, and I was never shooting any of the smaller ones to get my ranking up.
Right.
So I did all mine. I made high master shooting all those either the Nationals or Southwest Nationals. That's it.
Yeah, the big matches.
Yeah, the big matches. I didn't have time to go to the little ones. Now I do, but I'm going to start doing it in Phoenix.
Right. What about primer? I always tell people primer. You change primer, you pretty much almost like if you change your powder because it changes the burn rate.
You bet.
What do you are you just happy with one primer, or you test multiple ones every time? How do you approach that?
I try to go to my favorite, which is my favorite is Federal.
210.
Okay, Federal has a very good. They go off really good with firing pins. You got to remember, I shoot all Kelbys, and they just go off good with a Kelby firing pin. CCIs, a lot of guys shoot CCIs. I don't mind, they're a really hard cap, and you'll hear them go, well, that one didn't go off, and that one didn't go off. It's because they got the hardest cap there is. Right. And you really got to punch them to get them to go off.
Yeah, I use 28-pound springs because I used to use CCI. And then I moved to Federal, and I'm really happy with Federal. But to this day, I still test both just because I don't want to leave any stone unturned.
I do. I have Remingtons. I used to shoot a lot of Wolves and what's the other ones?
What you got Federal, you got Remingtons, you got Wolves.
What's the foreign one that we shoot?
Tula?
That's pretty good.
Tula?
Yeah.
Tula.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
They were good.
yeah. You can't get those anymore.
No.
A lot of guys are crying over that.
Yeah, I
That was
bet.
a really good primer, and it was
Yes.
cheap too.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, all primers are cheap
Were
now.
past tense. So what's
Yeah.
next, Lou? What's next? What's your I mean, you've said multiple. Like, what are your goals in F class?
Now, uh, in F class, pretty much, I mean, I haven't won the nationals or nothing in F class. I've come close, but I haven't won. I'd like to do a win like something good at the Burger Nationals, or that if they hold the nationals, Phoenix will. I'll shoot the nationals there. I'm not going to travel no more to shoot the F class nationals or Benchrest nationals. It's got to be close. I've done so much traveling.
Right.
It's unbelievable. I put 400,000 miles on 2 motorhomes.
Wow.
That was enough. So what I want to shoot, I do want to shoot FTR again.
Oh, okay.
I shot it once before. I shot it good. Now I have a Lindsay bipod, and I love it. But I was thinking, do I shoot it at Burger? But I got to shoot this Blake thing. I really think this has got something. And then after that, I'll play on the smaller matches. I'll shoot the FTR and the 308. I enjoy that.
How do you find the competition? What's the competition like between F class and Benchrest?
You know what? Actually, if you look at F class, those guys that are up there on the top all the time, they are really good shooters. I mean, they have paid their dues. They know what the heck they're doing. If you just sit and watch Michelle or Nancy coach shooting, and they've coached me, on small matches where we shoot a team thing, they can see so much, which I'm not looking at. It just blows me away.
Right.
There are a lot of really good F-class shooters. It's a tough group. It really is. Benchrest, yeah, it is. I've shot it so long, I don't know. You have your good days, you have your bad days. You know what I mean?
Right. I think F class is possibly the same in the sense that those guys, like you said, they pay their dues, right?
Yeah.
I can walk up to the line, and I'm sure some can better than me. I know they can. And you can pretty much look at the wind, and I don't read wind in miles per hour or any of that. I look at the wind and look at the flags, and I go, that's 3 rings or that's 4 rings. You know what I mean? That's the way.
That's the way I get.
Yeah.
I don't know minutes. I don't know none of that stuff.
Right. I read in rings, right?
Yeah.
And just like anything, people forget that it's a game. It's a strategy game, and you have to approach different winds, different ranges, different everything, with different approaches. And I think the guys that are consistently at the top, they just have more ammunition in their belt in a sense of knowledge ammunition, right?
They practice a lot.
Right. And those guys are able to cope with multiple different winds and adjust accordingly, right?
Yep.
I don't know if it's ever happened to you where you go to a range and then you shoot an entire string 20 and you have no idea the entire time. You had no idea what you were looking at. You're just pulling the trigger, and the longer you shoot, the more you practice, the more ranges that you shoot at, you start to see all these patterns, and you're like, oh, I've done this before, or I've seen this before, and then you kind of not only that, they also know when to shoot and when not to shoot. You know what I mean?
Yes. They'll wait. I mean, and that scares me to wait so long.
Oh, I
I
waited.
mean,
I waited. I think at the last nationals, everybody jumped in and I waited and I waited and I waited, and I think when I took my last shot, and they said time, and I wasn't even keeping time. I just
yeah.
that was a mistake on my part, but I got lucky enough that it didn't bite me, right? But I just when people are in such a hurry to get started that if you don't know what you're looking at, why are you going to jump in?
No, yeah, no. I'll shoot the spotters, the sighters before I go, and once I go, I go. But I don't like stopping in the middle of a run.
Okay.
That scared me.
You say you don't like stopping. That tells me you have stopped. What makes you stop? At what point do you say I gotta stop?
Your last bullet just went out to 8. You're going, what did that?
Right. So what makes you stop is not an 8, but it's the fact that you didn't know where it came from, right?
Yes.
When you realize you are lost.
Yep.
Which is, it's, how can I say this? That's a bad place to stop, but it's not good that you had to stop, but it's as good a place as any, because if you're lost, it's pointless to keep going, because you're just gonna bleed points like crazy.
Oh yeah, no, you gotta wait. You gotta know something before you go your next one.
Right. So burger bullets. That's your, same here. I mean, burger bullets.
Powders. I developed one powder with hydrogen.
Mm-hmm.
That was XBR,
Mm-hmm.
82.8.
Okay.
And then military took that project. And then I did powders with Western. I did LT32, and it was called Lose T32, but then we called it LT32 and LT30. I worked with General Dynamics a lot, quite a few years, getting that going. And then we were going to do a Varget, and then that's when everything crashed before, because Varget's one of the number one sellers, and Western had a good powder that was really close to a Varget.
Mm-hmm.
And now Hydrogen bought out Western, so
yeah, that's that.
They started getting the market.
Yeah,
I shoot a lot of Vitivori because they sponsor me too,
right?
And they're good powders. I mean, for a long time they kept trying to get me to shoot Vitivori at Benchrest. I didn't find one to perform right.
Mm-hmm.
Then they finally hit the dot, and I've been shooting it since.
Wait, they hit the dot with what?
They made it to what I like.
Ah, is that the N133? Is that the N133?
Yeah.
Okay. Have you tested any of these new 555 and what's the new one?
I have not. They've contacted me and asked me they're going to send me some and wanted me to test them. And I said, no problem, I would.
I tell you that 555, I've been testing it in my 284. It is pretty amazing. I mean, the limited testing, it was down on the low end, but for a grain at 1.2 grains, it only increased about 10 feet per second down on when I found that node. And then it started going up the ladder, and then I found another really flat spot, and it did best with the 210s than the BR2s, but I think it's going to be a great powder for the 284. I mean,
you shoot the straight 284?
Yeah, I shoot the straight 284, but I'm probably going to go back to the Shihane. I'm shooting that Wheeler.
Okay.
And it was a project. Yep, there you go.
284. I was shooting it yesterday.
Yeah, it was a project that I think it's a good cartridge, but you know, the Shahane, I have everything for it, and the
Yep.
Wheeler, I don't have a reamer for it, and I like to do my own barrel work. So
Yeah, I don't. I'm gonna. Mike's chambering me up a walker
Walker, yeah,
or
the 40-degree shoulder.
maybe no a 284 Lang. That's it, Walter Lang. A Lang.
Yeah,
He's gonna chamber me up one, and I'm gonna shoot it. Try it.
it may be the same
Don't
thing.
have to do much difference. And now that Lapula makes the 284 brass, which is great stuff.
So, do you neck turn F-Class brass?
Everything.
Yeah, yeah. What are the benefits of neck turning?
Sure. Consistency. Release. I mean, that's where the
new amp press.
Annealing made perfect press. That shows the big difference.
Yeah,
that shows you right there.
I got me one of them. It's amazing.
It is. Oh boy, you'll find what you're doing wrong.
I did immediately.
Yeah.
So neck turning. I mean, I do too. What about lubing the inside of the necks? That's always a controversial topic.
Only thing I don't do it on Benchrest. Okay, I found, because of that, I found that I've just wire brushed the inside of the neck. It gives me the most consistent there is. But anything I preload, I use a bore swab, Molly,
and
I just molly it and use, they're just swabs. They're just cotton swabs that you buy. And different calibers. And I find that in pressure testing, same thing. If you take a bullet and seat it, load your cases, not do anything, clean the brass, whatever, and leave the bullet contact and the neck, the clean neck, it builds this like a bond to it.
Cold welding.
And you can actually feel it. If you go in and just seat it 10 thousandths more, it would pop and then smoothly go. If you molly it, it doesn't do that. Well, a lot of guys, the night before, they'll seat them all. They'll seat them long for the night before the match. They seat them down to what the length they want. They break that bond. That's one way.
Right.
Well, I don't want to do that at night. So I just molly the inside of them, and they seat smooth. You can see it on that seater, on the press. It just works perfect. And then you could come back and do it again. Seat them, seat it 10 thousandths further, and watch what it does. And there's no bond. Whereas if you let like a loaded round sit there for a week, 2 weeks, I guess, stick it on there and try to seat it, that thing just picks up that pressure buildup.
It has a spike, right?
That's right. That spike. Exactly.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. That is one incredible piece of machine. What about annealing? I know you anneal, but...
Oh, yeah. I anneal even on my Benchrest.
Everything.
Yeah. With that thing, I used to try to anneal with I had 2 or 3 of the torch ones.
Yeah.
And I could never prove anything consistently. When I got one of these and started testing it, I could prove it. Well, when I can prove something, see something, then it's making a difference where now I'm getting the exact same hardness, everything's the same all the time. And that's what you're looking for. The same all the time.
Consistency.
That's it.
There's some guys that, for example, they want anneal every time. What do you? I mean, they'll wait 3-4 firings and they're like, okay, I'll anneal now. What do you think about that? As far as if you're trying to shoot the smallest groups possible?
I truly believe either anneal all the time or don't anneal at all. And anneal with this. If you're not annealing with this, don't anneal.
With an amp. Yeah.
That's right. You're better off not annealing. You will get better groups not annealing when you're using that torch stuff compared to this.
So
This anneal every time.
I got me an app finally, and like everything I do, I said I'm gonna go test it and make sure that I'm actually gaining something. And you know, it's I shot at 1,050, and I shot 20 shots, and I alternated amp flame. I even engraved my pieces of brass so I knew which one was where. And the hard part for most people to see is they said, well, they're very close. I said, they are very close. I said, but the flame annealer had one that fell out the bottom. I said, that is enough. They're like, well, it's just one. I said, that is enough. That is enough.
One flyer. That's all it takes.
That is enough to I mean, how many times have nationals been won by 1 point, right?
That's right.
And
that's
I said,
right.
that is enough for me to tell. But and I've done additional testing, but I'm gonna do one more. But I'm pretty much doing everything with the amp now. Number one, it's super easy.
It's so simple. I know it's costly, and I tell guys, look at it. Go in with a couple guys and get it. You know, the biggest excuse I think it is, they all know it's good. They just don't want to spend the money, or they can't spend the money. Well, go in with a friend. You know.
Right. Yeah. No, it's definitely a great machine.
Oh, you learn. You learn.
Okay, Lou. Well, I'm gonna get out of your way. I'm gonna have to get with you some other time and kind of do a little tour of your shop, because I know you got all kinds of goodies. But I know if we do that, we're probably gonna go another 2 hours. So I don't want to take that much of your time.
Sounds good.
I'm really thankful that you did this for us.
Hey, anytime.
Here's what I'm gonna do. Who, because as you know, I started this series lately. Who do you think I should talk to next? If you, if somebody that you said, I wish Eric would talk to this person, because I'm trying to interview people in the shooting community. I don't think anybody's ever done this before, where, because there's so many people that are very influential, and some people that you may know that you say, Eric should talk to this person. You know what I mean?
If the first person who comes to my mind, if you were going to talk to in F-Class, would be Jim Murphy.
Okay, well, he's been contacted.
Okay, I don't know if Mid would do it, but Jim Murphy. I have scored for Jim Murphy, and that man tests a lot. He does a lot. I mean, he's an unbelievable shooter.
And you know what he used to do for a living, right?
No, I don't.
He was a machinist.
Oh,
so he has that
okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's in his veins, the whole precision thing. You know what I mean? So yeah, for sure, Jim Murphy. What about in general in the shooting world? Who do you think would be someone that you'd like to see an interview with?
If you interview, I don't. Other than the discipline of Benchrest and that, unless you were to do an interview with a machinist that does chambering, and explain good chambering compared to how some people do it.
Yep. Well, I'm gonna hit up Speedy for that.
Yeah, that would really be good. Speedy's been around a million years.
Yeah.
And he's done a lot of products. I'd probably be shooting his powder this weekend. He had some powder done a million years ago, some Norma 201, and I still shoot it.
Yeah. Yep, he's got a lot of knowledge. All right, Lou, I appreciate your time, man. Take care, and I'll see you on the line.
All right, Eric.
All right, take care. Bye-bye, Lou.
Bye.
Tonight I'm feeling me, gonna make an ugly scene. Tonight